Well, good evening. I'm Alan Jackson. Welcome back to Nashville. After just a few weeks in office, it's already become clear that the Democrat Party has no intention of working with President Trump. When the Democrats met recently, they had no idea what to do next, so they took their now familiar path of trying to make everything Trump's fault. But they couldn't dent Trump, so now they're on a full-scale march against Elon Musk. They didn't stop there. Now they're attacking Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense, even as he flies with American troops to the southern border to protect our citizens. They say it's a hardship to require government employees to return to the office. More than 90% of them have been working from home years after the COVID threat faded. They're marching in loud protest, trying to block the spending freeze at USAID, the agency that spent your money to produce transgender comic books for Peru. There are so many examples. So let's move to our guest today. He's the chairman of the House Committee on Small Business, Congressman Roger Williams, a Republican of Texas. Welcome to our show, sir.
Hey, Pastor, it's great to be on your show. Thanks for having us.
Well, we're delighted to have you here. I want to start with the president's idea of rehabilitating the Gaza Strip. The Democrats jumped on this, insisting he's out of control for real now. He wants Gaza, Greenland, and the Panama Canal. What they failed to say is just how dangerous it would be to have anyone move back into what is now really a demolition site. It's not a livable place. There are 30,000 active mines. Buildings are falling down. There's no real way to move around. Imagine if he'd said that the Palestinians should go back to Gaza, and then they started getting killed by stepping on all the mines. I have a question. Should the president just ignore the noise and go forward?
Absolutely. I mean, he's thrown out an idea, and it's a great idea. I mean, who's got a better idea? Have we heard a better idea from anybody else? I don't think so. But I'm not surprised it's coming out of him, a business guy, developer. He sees options. But he's also talking about quality of life for people that have nothing to return to right now.
Well, it seems similar to the Panama Canal discussion to me. Most of the media will not tell everyone that it's already in the hands of the Chinese. Here's how that happened. A Hong Kong-based company has run the ports on both ends of the canal for decades. But that began when Hong Kong was still a British territory. China's got control over Hong Kong now, so they effectively decide who goes in and out of the Panama Canal and how much they'll pay. So, Congressman Williams, wouldn't it threaten American commerce and our safety if China really does control that canal in the future?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it can stop us moving ships and manpower, products, and so forth. And as President Trump has said, we didn't sell or give, Jimmy Carter didn't give the canal to the Chinese. We gave it to the Panamanians. And so it's not that way anymore. And we have every right to go in there and run it, and to the extent that we want to, and make it fair again. It's just not fair.
And now Greenland is on the table. We've heard from experts who have experience in national security issues, and Greenland apparently does have potential to fall into the wrong hands. Russia's military expansion, their interest in the Arctic sea lanes, provides plenty of reason for the president to want to make sure we don't let it be taken over by Putin. Isn't the safety of the American people the primary job of any president?
Well, it is. Yes, it is, but it wasn't the last president we had. He was not concerned about that. This one is. Greenland, again, is a natural, and everything you said from a security standpoint is true. It helps keep America safe. I mean, and you know, you talk to the people who live there, they're not so, they might like the fact that they can still keep their sovereignty and have the United States be a part of where they live. So look, at all this is thinking out of the box, but you'd expect that from President Trump. And we haven't heard from it from Biden's administration, because they just didn't have the smarts or the awareness or the want to get America back on top again. And that's what the talk's all about now, and I think it's great.
Well, so many of us are focused on the success of the president because his decisions often translate into a better country. But the Democrats are still attacking not just the plans, but the people. Listen to the extremes that Elizabeth Warren went to in criticizing Elon Musk.
In the building behind me, Elon Musk is seizing power from the American people. We are here to fight back. We will speak out. We will rally. We will power a movement all across this country.
You know, I suppose that's coming from the fact that he did so much to help elect Trump. And now he's getting one of his spaceships ready to rescue the astronauts. Those are the same people who Joe Biden left stuck in space since last June. Shouldn't Warren and her friends be thanking him instead of criticizing him?
Well, of course, but look, that's just pitiful to watch and listen to that. Going to go to the streets. There was an election November 5th. The people strongly voted for what President Trump stands for and what he said he was going to do, and we see him doing it now. It's amazing that the rhetoric they put out. Can you imagine if the Christian community or even the Republican community put out that kind of rhetoric? It'd be unbelievable. But they're out of touch. They need to stay out of touch, and they're going nowhere. And they're of course blaming him for everything. But that's why they have so much anger. Have you ever talked to one of them? They're so angry. The anger in their head is just unbelievable. But you know, you talk about the astronauts. I mean, I think about those two people every single day, and I'm glad that we're finally going to get up there and go get them. It takes the private sector, I guess, to do it. But let's go retrieve these astronauts, bring them home.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a break here so you can send us an email on this discussion. You can send your ideas for how to address some of these problems. You send them to comments at alanjacksonnow.com. I'll be right back. We're back now with Republican Congressman Roger Williams from the great state of Texas. He represents an area from Austin nearly to Fort Worth. Well, a recent guest on our show said that he thought it was actually a good thing that Trump lost 4 years ago, but won now, because the American people would not have had the respect and perhaps not even noticed how effective he is, especially compared to Biden and Harris. No one wants to have him to spend his last term digging out of the hole we're in, but he may turn out to be a truly historic figure if this momentum keeps going. Do you think what he's doing is sustainable for 4 years?
Oh, absolutely. I think the fact that we have him these 4 years is great. I think a lot of it has been a godly thing. I mean, the fact that the assassination attempt failed, we get him back to be our president and take on issues that we haven't seen before in this country. And so I'm glad he's our president. I wished he was the last time, but like you say, last time wouldn't mean this time. And I think he's in the right place at the right time for sure.
Well, the White House is going full steam ahead on clearing out the criminal migrants. They've had quite a bit of success already. Tell us about the bill that you introduced to keep people in Mexico.
Well, first of all, let me say this. If you're here illegally, you're here illegally. That's the bottom line. And we're a land of law. We need to make sure the world knows that. We just run better when we're lawful. So I've got a bill called the Stay in Mexico policy that would require that these illegals, when we capture them, get their court dates on the Mexican side of the border, not the American side. Biden had that option to work for, but he ignored it, and he gave court dates to these illegals while they were already in America. And of course, you can imagine they never came back. And so Stay in Mexico policy, the Supreme Court has ruled it's legal. Our bill just says that you get a court date in Mexico, you stay in Mexico till you get your court date and your due diligence, and that will keep a lot of people from coming over. In fact, the Border Patrol will tell you if this bill does become law, which I think it will be, it will reduce 70%, just that alone, 70% of the illegal crossings will be eliminated just because of this bill. So I think it'll get signed. I'm excited about it. But Stay in Mexico policy, watch it and we'll see what happens.
Well, I do want to cover some of your responsibilities. You're the head of the House Committee on Small Business. Nearly half the jobs in the U.S. are in small businesses. Yeah. What sort of voice do you have with the new White House on changing things to grow this big part of our country?
Well, we've got a great voice. I mean, President Trump and I have often talked. We both have run family businesses, still have family businesses. And, you know, chairing the Small Business Committee is perfect for me because I am a small business owner. Still have hundreds of people working as we speak today in Texas. One of the few people in Congress who actually owns a business. So when we pass legislation, I feel it like the people on the receiving end. But we're working really well with the White House. I believe, like the President does, we need to cut taxes. We need to cut them even more. When you cut taxes, you create more taxpayers. When you cut taxes, you create more jobs and opportunity. We need to do that. We promise to do that. That's why we need to make sure that tax cuts from 2016 become permanent by the end of this year. People need to get more money in their check, because when they get more money, we know they don't save, they spend, and that creates more of an economy, and that's just the way capitalism works. So on the Small Business Committee, we're focused on working with Ways and Means on tax cuts. We're focused on regulations. A lot of people don't realize it, but small business and Main Street have been devastated by regulations put on by Joe Biden. The figures are $1.73 trillion worth of regulations were put on Main Street America, small business owners, by Biden. And you convert that to man hours, there's 220 million man hours to comply to the regulations. And most small businesses don't have enough money to hire a lawyer or accountant, and so they have to get smaller, they go out of business. So we're doing away with, we're cutting regulations sizably. The president's already doing that. We're going to cut taxes, and those two things themselves are going to help Main Street America and allow people to invest and allow people to take some risk and get rewarded and start their own business, which is the American dream. So I'm excited to be involved in this. President Trump is lockstep with us, as we are with him on that. We believe in the American people. And the greatest asset America has is not America, it's the American people, the American worker. Let's put them to work. Let's create an environment that everybody in the world wants to come to legally and start a job, and maybe one day not even have to pay taxes.
Sounds good to me. Does it help having a former businessman be president when you're trying to get common sense business policies through the House?
Well, actually, it's unbelievable, because you can almost talk in sign language with business people. When you talk about accelerated depreciation, when you talk about return on investment, when you talk about competition, you talk about risk and reward, you talk about 100% expensing. Business people get all this. He gets it all. In the past, we've had people that not come from the private sector, and they weren't sure what all this meant. But the fact of the matter, having a businessman, business owner as president of the United States is a huge asset to people like me that want to get a message out and get it across of less government and lower taxes.
Well, you've got a very razor-thin margin, really, of Republicans in the House. Do you think you'll be able to work together to get the president's policies through?
Well, I think so, and I hope so. The people of America voted President Trump in on the very things he's doing right now, and for us to go against what the people in our districts have had to say, I think is wrong. But we have to begin to get this done, and I think we have to get the tax cuts, and we have to get the border done ASAP, so people will truly realize something's happening. They're already seeing border crossings have gone down drastically since we've sent troops down there, and since Holman's been in charge. And then we got to get taxes done, because when people notice their check is bigger than it was before, it shows you right then that Congress and the president are doing exactly what they say they want to do.
Well, before we finish, I want to get your reaction to a pivotal moment we saw at the White House last week when President Trump signed an executive order to protect women's sports.
God bless you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Trump told them that gender ideology insanity is over. Congressman, it was a very common sense response to this crushing issue for so many young women. I'm sure you agree.
Totally agree. I've got 2 girls and 2 grandgirls. But here's the deal. Isn't it amazing that in this great country that we've had to hold a press conference, we've had to lobby, we've had to argue, we've had to cajole to try to remind people there's a difference between a man and a woman, and that men shouldn't be playing against women in sports. That's pretty unbelievable right here in this country. But we had it. We got legislation passed. He signed it. I think it's fantastic. And now we need to shut up and let's go play ball and enjoy the ball games.
Makes sense to me. Well, Congressman, Texas and Tennessee have been working together for quite a long while. It's nice to have you on the program today. I hope you'll come be in our studio with us here in Nashville sometime soon.
Well, I'd love to do it. Nashville is a great city, and we'd look forward to coming and having more conversation anytime.
Well, keep up the good work. There are many of us praying for you. When we come back, we've got some hopeful thoughts of our own. I believe the election last November is the latest episode in the shaking that God is doing throughout the earth. There are things becoming clearer today that just weren't clear before. They were hidden in the midst of something. Well, I've had enough birthdays and participated in enough elections to know that they seldom change anything of real substance. Reminds me a lot of a Globetrotters game. They just changed jerseys, and after the game, they split the game receipts. Well, that's not what's happening now. I got home the other night, I turned on the news, and I saw a U.S. president standing with the Prime Minister of Israel. Now, I've seen that scenario many times before over the decades. Truthfully, I wasn't paying that much attention. But then President Trump looked at the camera and he said that everything done over the last 70 years has failed. He said Gaza is decimated, there are thousands of landmines, and it's not a safe place for people. And all of that is truly accurate. Then he said, I have a solution. And he proposed taking the Gaza area and turning it into a productive zone for the entire region, creating jobs and opportunities for all the people. Now, I don't know if the idea will happen or not, but I also have never heard an idea like that before. In my opinion, President Trump's statement about Gaza and the U.S. being involved to help make it a peaceful and productive place for the people to live and work, it's the most logical resolution I've heard in a long time for that part of the world. Well, I have a question for you. If the new administration can usher in fresh ideas, can we as the people of God be open to the new things God wants to do in our lives? Jesus gave us a reference point. It's Luke 5. You probably know the passage. He talks about pouring new wine into old wineskins. He says if you do that, the new wine will burst the skins and the wine will run out. The new wine has to be poured into new wineskins. Now, I'm sure you know the equation. When grape juice ferments, CO2 is released. If it's an old wineskin, there's no elasticity. It'll rupture, you'll lose the wine. You have to pour the new wine into a new wineskin so it can find new limits and new boundaries. Well, we're in a season of great change. We can't allow it just to be political change. We have to allow the Spirit of God to bring change to our lives. Are we willing to allow that? Or will we forfeit the opportunity and allow the privileges that we could pick up to be spilled? I pray not. It's time to allow the Spirit of God to lead us into a season of change and not just the politicians. When we return, I'm going to read some of your emails. Thank you for taking the time to send us your emails. Your thoughts and opinions are an important part of our show prep. William and Veronica from Georgia wrote, the book Shepherds for Sale by Megan Basham is a real eye-opener. She would make an excellent guest for the show. Keep up the good work. If you expand the length of the show and move on to the Saturday evening slot, we have a suggestion for the name. Call it Saturday Night in America with Alan Jackson. Your show is uplifting and a real blessing. We've had Megan on. We'll see if we can get her back on set. And I agree, the book is a powerful message, one we all need to be aware of. As to the expansion for an hour show and even Saturday night, we're having the discussion. We need two things. We'll need permission from the network and then the funding to be available. With those, here we go. Leslie from North Carolina wrote, where can I get a list of some of the questionable spending by U.S. aid that has been identified by DOJ so far? Well, Leslie, I went and asked Rabbi Google yesterday for a list, and he gave me quite an extensive report. I suspect you can find it that way pretty quickly. Carol emailed, I'm almost 89, and I wanted you to know that I took you up on your request to read the 4 Gospels. Well, I got that done, and now I'm into Acts. I had read the Bible clear through years ago, so it was refreshing to read it all again. I catch your evening show each evening and occasionally catch you Sunday mornings. I just wanted to tell you, God bless you and keep doing what you're doing. Well, Carol, thank you, and you keep reading. When you get done with Acts, the story just gets better. Reading the Bible changes our hearts, and through that, it changes our lives. It is a worthwhile investment of time and energy. Then Joe from Arkansas wrote, I was so encouraged when I saw the president sign the order to keep men out of women's sports. But then I was sad that it took an order to hold up something so basic. How did we come this far? Well, Joe, I've spent my adult life in the church, so I'll give you my opinion. I think it's a massive failure on behalf of the people of faith. To be completely candid, I'm grateful that President Trump had the courage to sign the initiative, but I was a bit embarrassed that we had to have a president of the United States to do that, a political figure. I believe that message and that moral authority needs to come from the church. We have been frightened, if not just complete cowards, for far too long. We've got to bring our biblical worldview back into the public square. It'll make a better world for our children and grandchildren. and it'll make our churches healthier as well. If you miss a broadcast, I just want to remind you, you can go to YouTube. They're posted there every evening, so you can watch them at your leisure on your timetable. And if you haven't yet, take a moment to send your emails to comments@alanjacksonnow.com. Your feedback and questions, they do a lot to shape our show. Well, I'm Alan Jackson. You have a wonderful evening.